Good morning everyone. Outfit of the day will be this gorgeous asymmetric dress. My colleagues always joke that it is my tango dress, which I am going to pair with 3 new pieces that I received as PR from Ana Luisa Jewelry. You guys may remember that a while back I received PR from them and they approached me again, and I was more than happy to say yes to another paid partnership with them because I absolutely loved the first pieces that I got. If you don't know, Ana Luisa Jewelry is a New York based brand which makes luxury jewelry in affordable prices starting from $39. They make sustainable jewelry and they seem very passionate about the environment, so whenever they send me packages they're always as minimally packaged as possible. So let me introduce you to the 3 new pieces that I got. The first one is this beautiful necklace, which is the Margot necklace. It has this really beautiful like hammered coin design, which I really have been enjoying. I think you guys have seen me wear these pieces a lot lately because I've been wearing them so often. I'm going to pair them with these gorgeous earrings. Those are their hazel hoops. They have the cutest little celestial design on them, and I'm going to show you in a bit to compare them with the previous hoops that I got, the Michelle ones, because they're different in size, and I think those of you who thought the Michelle hoops were a little too big and too heavy might actually enjoy the hazel a lot more because of how much more subtle they are, but still in the same vein. And last but not least, this is their Mara pearl ring, which I am absolutely in love with. It is an adjustable ring, which makes it so easy if you order and you're afraid that you can't really pick the right size. It has this gorgeous pearl stone on it, which shifts into a variety of different colors depending on how the light hits it, so it basically goes with absolutely everything. I am absolutely in love with the ring. I'm going to have a link with my code for you in the description box below, as well as somewhere on the screen if you would like to check them out. They're currently running their Black Friday sale. Further, I'm going to combine this with my beautiful black leather watch, and as perfume I have chosen one of my favorite like fall winter scents, which is La Vie Belle L'Eclat from Lancome. So guys, there you have the dress in its full glory. It is beautifully asymmetric. I bought this dress last year when I was at a wedding in Bergamo in Italy. I don't really buy souvenirs when I go to foreign places. I usually buy like a piece of cloth or jewelry or shoes, so in a way it serves as a souvenir, but a souvenir that I can wear, and I am always reminded of the place and the occasion when I wear a piece that I have bought like that, and it always brings memories. So, you know, this dress in particular brings me memories of the wonderful wedding we went to in Bergamo. So here I'm wearing the pieces from Ana Luisa. Here are the earrings, the beautiful necklace, and of course the ring. I just wanted to quickly mention, because in my first PR package from them I received this gorgeous pair of earrings, which is their Michelle gold coin hoops, which are one of my favorite pieces of jewelry since I received them. But you can see in comparison how much bigger the coin element on the Michelle hoops is compared to the hazel ones. So I wanted to just show you. Look what a dramatic difference it is. So if these are too much statement for you, I think these are gorgeous because they have the same like dangling coin element to them. It's still very interesting to look at, but they're much more inconspicuous and much less in your face, and they're going to also be less heavy on your ears. Now, without further ado, I'm just going to jump into number 5 in my Pat McGrath ranking playlist, which is the gorgeous bronze Seduction palette Mothership 5. Now, she is a crowd pleaser. This palette ends up number 1 on about 90% of the videos that I have seen ranking Pat McGrath palettes, and trust me, I don't find it surprising one bit. It is a gorgeous palette. It's very approachable, but at the same time it has all of these like interesting pops and interesting duochromes, and arguably to this day contains the 4 most spectacular topper shades in a Mothership palette. I don't want to go into further detail talking about the palette because I've mentioned it on several occasions. I've done a Project 5 wears, which I will link up here. I've also talked about it in the actual ranking video, which you can find linked in the whole Pat McGrath ranking playlist, and I'm just going to jump into the look. Now, today's look is going to be inspired by one of the characters on the Netflix series Pose. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the look, and then we're going to talk about the TV show. So, on I think, episode 2 of the show, season 1, one of the characters, arguably probably my favorite character on the show, played by the gorgeous India Moore. Her character on the show is called Angel, and she plays a transgender woman, and she's just so stunning. But she was wearing a red smoky eye with like a little bit of gold in the inner part of the lid. And what really immediately struck me about this show, already from like the first episode, is I looked at the makeup they were wearing and I kept thinking, I think this is the Pat McGrath Mothership 5 Bronze Seduction palette. I think this is the Mothership 5 Bronze Seduction palette. And then I had to go and look it up, and I found out that the makeup artists of the show actually often used Pat McGrath makeup. Not only the Mothership 5, but I think on occasion I've seen the La Vie en Rose, the small subliminal subversive palette, being used. But in this particular episode, I'm almost completely sure she was wearing the Mothership 5 Bronze Seduction. She had this shade all over her lid and possibly smoked out in her outer corner, and I think she had this shade in her inner corners. So that's the look I'm going to be recreating today. I'm going to start off with this mid-tone brown through my crease, and then I'm going to immediately go into the gorgeous red topper shade. And towards the inner part of my lid, excuse me, I'm actually going to dip into the Skin Fetish Sublime Trio, because I find this shade to just have so much more impact. I'm going to put that in the inner part of my lids, and then as a finishing touch, I am going to apply this beautiful astral shade here, which has the most gorgeous like gold duochrome to it, over top of that highlighter shade from the trio. And then on my lower lash line, I'm going to finish it off really easily. I'm going to put this shade again and maybe smoke out towards the outer part of the lid with the deeper brown. I figured since we're talking about this show, I might just do a story time today talking about like the top three recent shows that I have seen on Netflix, starting with Pose. So if you guys haven't seen Pose, first of all, I highly recommend that you go and see it. But it is basically a show depicting the LGBTQ community in the beginning of the 80s, actually more towards like the mid-80s, beginning of the 90s, and the voguing movement. Now, if you are like me and you didn't know what the voguing movement is, let me tell you, first of all, you probably didn't know that the song Vogue from Madonna is based on this movement, which started in the underground LGBTQ community. So basically, the way I understood it is these people who have basically been outcasts from their families, from society, from just everyone, get together and they form their own community, their own families, and they organize these underground events where they have themes and they dress up and they put on this show, which is like half dancing, half like poses borrowed from the catwalk, which evolves into this movement called voguing, which becomes very trendy, by the way, after the Madonna song. But what I really loved about this show, first of all, is that the directors actually employed a lot of transgender people, a lot of gay people to play the roles, because obviously these people have been through these hardships and they can best resonate with what's going on emotionally speaking, and they can best represent it and portray it, which I found really admirable. It put so many talented people on the map. I loved every single character on the show. For those of you who have seen the show, you probably know who Angel is. She's this gorgeous transgender woman who eventually rises to fame in the fashion world as a model. Very well deserved, by the way. I absolutely loved her character. It would be a lie if I didn't say I absolutely adored the character of Electra. If you guys haven't seen the show or will see it, I'm sure you're going to fall in love with Electra. She's just absolutely amazing. She has the attitude in life that every badass woman should have. I love the characters of Blanca because she's just so kind. She's just a motherly type. The character of Preytel, you know, their friendships. It also portrays really well the AIDS pandemic, because at the time that the show is set, AIDS was already, you know, a thing in their community, but at the same time, scientifically speaking, there was not much known about it, so it wasn't as treatable as it is today. So I don't know, it made me think and realize a lot of the hardships that these people have, just, you know, based on biology that they have no choice or control over, because They've been outcast from their families, from society, because of a biological trait, basically. Imagine someone being outcast because they have blue eyes. To me, that's the equivalent. Obviously, being transgender is much more complicated than that, of course, but biologically speaking, genetically speaking, it is as simple as that. And of course, I have to say, genetically speaking, this was still quite a matter of discussion and investigation in the 80s and the 90s. I think now it's much more well accepted and better understood. And if you guys are curious a little bit about this and the genetics behind it, and just genetics in general, I would highly recommend Siddhartha Mukherjee's The Gene. I can link it in the description box below for you if you're curious to read the book. I think it is first of all, he's an incredibly talented science communicator. He wrote The Emperor of All Maladies, which is like the biography of cancer, which is a riveting book. I highly recommend it. And he also wrote The Gene, which is the biography of the gene. I highly recommend both of them. But especially in The Gene, he talks very elaborately about, you know, gender and genetics. So I highly recommend the book if you want to find out more about that. But you know, it just made me feel so sad that these people who have done nothing wrong, who are good people, who are in no way different to you and me, have had to suffer so much. Now, since I have the tendency to ramble for too long about things, I'm going to move on from Pose and tell you about the show that I probably enjoyed the most out of the three that I'm going to talk about, and that is The Haunting of Bly Manor. So if you guys didn't know, the Haunting series is part of an anthology made by Mike Flanagan, and the first installment in this anthology was released last year, and it was called The Haunting of Hill House. And we watched it without really knowing what to expect last year, and both my husband and I were just so blown away by the way Mike Flanagan tells a horror story in a way. I think he's pretty well known in like the horror genre, but what strikes me the most about his... Sorry, I keep going back and forth with my fingers because I just want to build up the red as much as I can, and I find that I prefer to build it up with my finger and then just blend it out with a brush. So what I really enjoy about Mike Flanagan's style is how effortlessly he kind of weaves supernatural elements into what is essentially a story about people, about human drama, about emotions, about, you know, all the things that make us human and have nothing to do with the supernatural. So he just kind of weaves the two together in this like perfect combination of storytelling, which I find absolutely amazing. Now, in The Haunting of Hill House, by the way, there might be spoilers here and there. I will try my best for the spoilers not to be super major, but I can't promise anything. So I apologize in advance. So now that I have seen The Haunting of Bly Manor, which is the second part in the anthology, I can tell you, to me, in the first like hauntings series, The Haunting of Hill House, I found that there was much more, you know, of an balanced, almost like equal contribution of the supernatural element and the human drama. I'm going to just apply a little bit of the red shade now over the glitter glue, by the way. I found much more of those like classic horror elements, and I found it like hauntingly scary, much more than I found that with Bly Manor. With Bly Manor, he basically went on to do what I would consider a love story with supernatural elements to it. Just so beautifully done, so beautifully acted, and just, oh, I was weeping at the end of the season. It was just so incredibly beautiful. Like also, there were so many like components that I really enjoyed about Bly Manor that I almost enjoyed a bit more compared to Hill House. Don't get me wrong, Hill House is still a masterpiece, but Bly Manor just elevates it to a whole new level because of how well interwoven the, you know, personal psychological ghosts were with the actual supernatural ghosts. And what I also really enjoyed about Bly Manor is that he dedicates a whole episode in explaining the supernatural origin of the house. By the way, I'm going to go into the gorgeous topper shade now. My goodness, this shade just never ceases to amaze me. In the first Hill House, he basically just kind of left it at, you know, the house is like a living organism, and people who die there just are basically, you know, forever stuck there haunting the house. It was almost like, you know, if you were a good person when you died, you're going to remain an innocent ghost, and if you were a bad person when you died, you're going to be one of those malevolent ghosts. Of course, there was much more to it, so I'm not going to spoil it too much, so you can go watch it. But in Bly Manor, he made a whole episode explaining the supernatural element and how it came to exist, which was also very beautiful and very heartbreaking. And while I found myself less creeped out by Bly Manor, I was still creeped out. Let me put that straight. I was still creeped out by it. To me, Bly Manor felt much more, you know, a love story with supernatural elements and like a representation of all the like different kinds of love that you can have, like a love towards your child, a love towards your partner, the juxtaposition between beautiful, you know, gentle, selfless love versus, you know, toxic, destructive, selfish love. And all of that with the element of the supernatural beautifully interwoven together. I was just like, ugh. I keep rewatching the last episode of Bly Manor because I absolutely loved the ending, the script of that episode, just absolutely everything about that episode was just sheer perfection. The way it was shot, I'm just thinking about it now, I could like, my eyes could well up. I just loved it so incredibly much. If you are even a little bit into the supernatural genre and this sounds appealing to you, trust me, you're not going to regret watching The Haunting of Bly Manor. I haven't heard anyone being disappointed by this show. It was perfectly splendid. For those of you who have seen it, you will know what I'm referring to. For those of you who haven't, go watch it. And while I'm finishing up the last elements of my makeup here, I wanted to quickly mention the last show that I wanted to like quickly almost review for you. Not review, but like share my thoughts on. And that is The Queen's Gambit. Excuse me, I'm going to just quickly tightline here with a dark brown, which is a riveting story about a young orphaned girl who turns out to be a chess prodigy. And the title role is played by Anya Taylor-Joy, and she just brings so much like intensity and vulnerability to the role. I just really, really love it. It's basically a show which tells the story of a young woman in a male-dominated world and the struggle she has to be recognized for her, you know, intelligence and talent, other than, wow, you're a woman, you know? It's very well done, very well acted. I highly recommend it. I haven't actually finished watching the show. I have the final episode left. There are only 7 episodes. It's a mini-series. Oh, I forgot to tell you. I'm doing my Kiko eyeshadow stick in this bronzy brown on my waterline. And the tagline of the show is something in the sense of, you know, that there is a thin line between genius and madness. And I don't find that to so much be the case. I find her psychological issues and like her struggles in life to be very well explained by her family background. And of course I think there was a genetic component of like mental instability coming from her mom, but I found most of her issues to mostly be explained by her family issues. There you have the final look with the Bronze Seduction palette for my number 5 this week. There is absolutely no question about it, India more wore it better, but hey, I tried my best. Now before I finish, I just quickly wanted to mention what I have on my lips because I forgot to mention that. On my lips I am wearing the Pat McGrath Matte Trans Lipstick in the shade Flash 3. I just have one of her minis. It is a gorgeous, like deep reddish brown neutral kind of shade. It's really, really pretty. And on top of that I applied the tiniest bit of Carnal Desire, which is one of her lip glosses. It has the most beautiful like pink, red, gold sparkle to it. I know what you're thinking, are you wearing gloss underneath the mask, are you crazy? But what I found out is that if I work the gloss into my lipstick, it kind of becomes like a creamy lipstick rather than a full-on gloss which will stick to everything, and my mask is kind of very forgiving with these sort of things because it just doesn't stick to my mouth as much. So I'm able to get away with a lip look like this without looking like a hot mess by the end of the day. So let's conclude here by number 5 Bronze Seduction palette. We're going to see each other next week for number 4, which is the Divine Rose 2 palette. Don't forget to check out Ana Luisa jewelry if you like their style. They're running their Black Friday sale at the moment, so it's a great time to snag some of their beautiful pieces. You can use my code if you would like to. If not, you can use someone else's code. You don't have to use a code at all. Up to you. As usual, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!